Welcome one and all to HealthSparx, featuring the brightest entrepreneurs, innovations in healthcare and technology. I am your distinguished host, Michael Walsh. Welcome to the show today. Today's going to be a live episode here in Dallas. A friend of mine from the Boombox Network, Chris Bradshaw, she's the principal of operations and strategy, is going to stop by. We're going to chat about some great stuff related to how to market to baby boomers. And we're not even going to stick with baby boomers. That's what Boombox is all about. But just good tips in general for what startups out there in health technology or really anywhere can be thinking about to build a brand, promote themselves, and get out there and just dominate. So she's going to be here to chat about that stuff. Really looking forward to that. A couple quick reminders before we get started. As always, please subscribe to the show here on the website, healthsparx.com/subscribe, or just click above. It's just an email address. I promise I'm not going to spam you or anything like that. I just deliver the content each week to you, as well as a bunch of other cool stuff I've got in the works coming up here this summer. So subscribe. That'd be great. Also, as always, Satori Tech Solutions, continuing to just be the best they can be. They're great. They're taking all sorts of meetings here in Dallas with startups, so check these guys out. They do fantastic work. If you're looking for web development, mobile development, SEO, social media, whatever it might be, these guys are the people to come see. So if nothing else, let's get into today's show. Chris Bradshaw with Boombox Network. All right, today on HealthSparx, I have the fortunate privilege of interviewing a good friend of mine here in Dallas. It's Chris Bradshaw. She's the principal of strategy and operations from the Boombox Network, which is a company. I actually don't know, how long ago did it launch?
We've had our 1-year anniversary.
Okay, so about a year old. Launched it here in Texas, and she's been kicking ass doing some branding efforts and promotional work with companies ever since. So Chris, welcome to HealthSparx.
Michael, it's such a treat to be here. Thank you.
Before we got a lot to cover today. We were just talking about kind of the rundown of the episode. A lot to catch up on here. I want to talk about you. I want to talk about Boombox, but I also want to get into some tricks and some things for entrepreneurs to be thinking about in terms of their branding, their marketing, their promotional efforts. And even though Boombox Network isn't a health technology company per se, a lot of the work they do can very much be applied to all of you entrepreneurs out there thinking about launching a health tech startup, especially with the baby boomer community. So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, and kind of maybe where you went to school, your first jobs. Give us the scoop about Chris Bradshaw in 2 minutes. Go.
All right, good. Dallas, love it. Been here a long time. Went to UT Arlington, TCU, and SMU. So I've covered a couple of different, of our educational organizations here in North Texas. So yeah, I think it's more of a North Texas thing. My first jobs were all in the hotel business, but always with technology. I used to install computer systems in hotels back in the day, and open hotels.
When is back in the day?
Oh, I can't go that far. I can't go that far. Back when actually there was paper, okay? Like, the first computer was an IBM 360 that we put in.
I remember those,
do
all right?
Really?
I do.
Okay. See, but I'm talking about to boomers, so they all get that. So that was when you had to teach the cleaning staff not to hit the on and off button when they were wiping it down.
It's an important lesson learned.
Yeah, absolutely huge. So I actually transitioned from the hospitality kind of on-site physical hotels into travel technology after getting my MBA over at SMU.
Okay.
And went from there. I took my first job in travel technology at Sabre and ended up on the launch team for Travelocity because it was all about the time that the whole internet was coming up and everything.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I've been in this online space since 1995.
Okay, so you've seen it grow up, per
Absolutely.
se, from a little baby to now a full-sized adult.
Absolutely.
Okay, so...
And I've loved the whole startup piece of it, and I've been with the startups. So even when I was at Travelocity, I was there when nobody had ever heard of Travelocity, right?
Right.
20 years later, almost now, right? In 2015, it'll be 20 years since all those kind of big sites launched. And now they're kind of big traditional behemoth kind of organizations. And when I knew them, they were all startups. So love the startup space, love technology. I always seem to find myself at the leading edge of things because I'm just totally curious. I want to know it all, and and I have to be exploring and learning all the time.
I give Chris a hard time sometimes. She told a story a couple weeks back to the group about how when she was a kid, she would always be the one that would be kind of sucking up to the teacher or doing whatever was needed back in school, and whatever got the job done is just kind of the Chris Bradshaw mantra.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Boombox because I want to make sure it's really important what you guys are doing. So, what is the Boombox Network? What is this?
we're kind of we're an agency, we're a consulting business, and we're a network. We specialize in marketing to baby boomers via social media.
Very niche.
Very niche. So, one of the challenges is that people don't understand there's challenges in this space though, because people don't understand the value of social media still. The spectrum of people who get and don't get social media is extreme.
Pretty wide.
It's very wide, right? But that's always the case at the beginning of something, right? I mean, just remember back in the day when people said, I don't need a website.
Yeah.
Even a small business now knows it has to have a website.
You don't function without a website.
Exactly.
It's just part of the startup.
Right? So I think social media is going to be the same. But there were people, remember back in the day when you would hand out your business card and you didn't have your email address on it, or you didn't have a website on it, or you didn't have a Twitter handle. So all of that is coming. This is just the newer space, and things just move faster now than they used to, right?
All right, so how does this work then? So again, because it's sort of it's a consulting type of agency as well as some other things. So clients approach you.
So we've got two kind of audiences in our world. We've got clients, usually brands, right? A brand, a product, a service that want people to know about them. They want to drive. They want more information. They want product reviews. They want to drive awareness, buzz, all of that.
Right.
They come to us if their market and target demographic is a baby boomer, right? And then we've got these bloggers, and we're trying to help them become more successful, monetize their blogs, and understand how to do that as well.
Sure.
Right? So we've got kind of these two missions in life. So, and what's funny about the healthcare space is that we did not realize we would be servicing so many healthcare companies. But the baby boomer daughter is the most attractive target market for anyone looking to service the senior market or anyone making decisions about elder care.
I've said the same thing with Carolou. People ask who your target is. I say she is between the age of 35 and 55.
Exactly.
That's pretty much it.
Exactly. So whether you're a facility or you are an app or you're any kind of resource or service for making decisions about elder care, making decisions about downsizing, making decisions about moving into a new facility. It doesn't matter. There's this huge spectrum. And the other thing are all the products and services for aging in place, right? Because usually the parent does not want to move, and the boomer child is the one trying to figure out how to support that wish.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's all sorts of brands out there that would love to capitalize on that.
Exactly. So we end up servicing one of our largest, most recent campaigns was with a product from VTech. People have heard about VTech. They make phones, they make children's toys. Well, they've entered the senior market for the first time, launched a phone at CES that's specifically for elders and seniors who want to age in place, and they did a whole lot of research, ended up with a really cool product, and we got to launch that into the baby boomer market through a whole bunch of bloggers who care about this.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
It's a truly unique way nowadays to grow a brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And really challenging for the brand managers.
It's come a long way from just putting out flyers in mailboxes.
Exactly. And what was fabulous about VTech was that they had been working with bloggers for years because they'd been doing it in the mommy blogger space with a lot of their toys. So it was not a reach for them. It wasn't a stretch for them. They were very comfortable with it. They understood the value that it was bringing.
Touch on that a little bit, because this might be just more my curiosity, but so how do the bloggers really play into this? So again, they're the ones who then so VTech comes to you and says, we want to kind of put the brand out there, we want to really spread the word about it, build the buzz per se. How do the bloggers really fit into all this? Like, what do they do?
Yeah, so there's the process is that you figure out what is the client, we'll use this VTech in this case, what's the client trying to achieve? Well, here they had a product launch, right?
Yeah.
So they wanted to get product out into the market. They wanted people to, they wanted to build as much buzz as they could, and they wanted to have other people besides them talking about the product, right? So this whole content marketing thing that you hear about, right? So when you do Yelp, for example, you're looking at reviews. Mm-hmm. Well, these blog posts were Caroline's reviews. So then we go out and we look at all the bloggers that we've got, what their topics are, what kind of tone of voice they have, what they do, who their audience is, right? And we choose the ones that are appropriate, that are going to have the right readership, who, where their readers actually are going to care about Caroline,
right? And
where the way the writing is done is appropriate for the Caroline brand.
Do bloggers come to Boombox Network and kind of raise their hand and say, "Hey, I'd love to participate"?
So it depends on the brand. So in this case, yes, we just sent out kind of we have a network that have joined us, and that's always the very first place we go, is if they're one of our members. And we communicate with them on a regular basis with opportunities. So in this case, we were like, hey, there's this product coming out. It's launching. Would you like to be one of the first people to see it? Would you like to try it and talk about it?
Yeah, can you get out there and talk about it for us?
And then we'll have twice as many as we need, if not more than that. And we then go through very selectively and say, well, that's not the right place.
Right.
Somebody, in this particular case, it was a phone. Somebody who does recipes all the time, even if she really wanted one and had her mom that needed one, etc., her readers were not going to care.
Sure.
If she made a post about a phone suddenly on her recipe website. Right?
Yep.
So, and sometimes you're like, okay, why did you even bother? But they do. So.
All right, so...
And the other thing is we compensate them. We pay them for doing this.
Which is, great if you're a blogger, right? All you got to do is do what you normally do, and you get paid for it.
And
it's a real neat model. I like it.
Yeah, thanks. And our clients are really happy with it as well, because the baby boomer bloggers are very conscientious. They're very good writers.
And they have a great following.
They do.
It's like, if you're in that space and you like blogging, you really like blogging.
Exactly.
They've got a lot of followers, some of these baby boomer bloggers. I've seen them.
Yeah, but not in the millions. But they're very engaged.
Well, and it's whatever, they all have chosen to really be active in their voice about whatever it is.
Exactly.
Phones or technology or travel, food, whatever it is, but they're doing it and they're just really going after it.
Yes.
Because it's not nearly as big of a space, I think, as some of the others maybe.
No, not at all. There's still, and the communities, the networks like ours, we were the very first one ever in this space. There's now a couple more who, but competition is good in this particular case because it's educating the market that this exists and that this is a viable way to get your product out.
All right, so for those listening, Chris and her partners in this whole thing have a lot of experience, clearly, with helping companies build brands and sort of understanding how to get the word out, via social media, especially these days. So one of the big things that I wanted Chris to come on and talk about as well was, again, just some of the how-tos and the things to be thinking about for entrepreneurs out there, really regardless of what industry you're in. Specifically for health and technology here on HealthSparx, but it doesn't really matter. These are just good things to be thinking about. So let's start there. As a startup company, and most startups these days are bootstrapped. They don't have a lot of money. What are some things that startups can be doing now to be getting the word out about what they do? Like connections they could be making, tools they could be using. Let's just kind of start with the basics, then we'll maybe get into the how-to.
Well, I think you are actually a very good example of how to do things right.
Yeah.
So, and social media has got to be the absolutely easiest way to get the word out that you exist to begin with, and to start a national conversation and not a local conversation. And it's actually the easiest way to do your business development efforts and initiatives.
So let's dig into that. So social media obviously it's a growing term. Social media, what started as social media was Wikipedia and blogging, has now grown into all sorts of things. So let's dig into what we mean by social media. What are the real platforms these days to maybe focus on?
So, well, let's differentiate between platforms and channels. Okay. So in channels, I'll define as whether you're using Facebook or your blog or your website or Twitter or something like that.
It's like the big picture, like channel you're pushing it through.
Right. What channel you're pushing it through. And when we work with our clients, each channel has a purpose. And not all channels are right for every client.
Totally.
Right? So first off, we determine what are your really high-level goals, like super high level, like goal number 1, 2, and 3, and we don't go past 3. So I'll use an example of a client that we're working with right now. She has an iPad app for seniors called I Stand Fit. And basically, it's exercises for seniors for fall prevention.
Health and technology.
Exactly, health and technology. So she's bootstrapping everything. She's trying, but this whole social thing is really kind of just not natural for her.
Sure.
Right? And she's so busy. So we've gone through the exercise of what are you really trying to achieve, okay? Short-term goal for her, she wants downloads of her iPad app, right?
Every app person does, right?
Exactly. So she wants downloads. Longer term goal, she wants to set herself up as a thought leader and an authority, right, in fall prevention, or for training physical therapists or things like that, right? So you've got primary, secondary goal. Second thing we do is figure out, okay, which channel is best for this, right? Which channels are people on? So primary goal is download iPad apps. So you look at your channels, you go, okay, let's talk about the 3 majors. And in this case, the 3 majors were Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Okay? LinkedIn, corporate, professional, lends itself to thought leadership, right?
Yep.
Twitter, it's both consumer and professional, right? But lends itself to a lot of business development partnerships, and you can find people nationally. And it also tends to be, there seems to be a lot of barriers are removed in Twitter.
I was just going to say that. It's very easy.
It's very easy. People are really open on Twitter and willing to talk to you, right?
Yep.
So Twitter's over here. And the third one that we chose for her was Facebook. Because Facebook is actually where she's going to find the people who really download product onto their iPad app.
And with Facebook, I mean, these days too, I haven't done a whole lot of Facebook campaigning yet for Carolee, but I've been told by my development team it's extremely easy to segment and target within Facebook these days.
And you can promote you can promote for $3 or $4, right?
Very cheap.
Give yourself a $50 a month budget. That's more than you need at first. Right? So when we looked at her channel, she was doing really well on Twitter. Her LinkedIn profile, she needed some work. So we went through the process of updating her profile. And on Facebook, she only had 10 likes.
Yeah.
It's like, yikes.
We need to get you out there.
So that right there told us, okay, here's some priorities, right?
Okay.
And so we looked through, and then we look at her day-to-day kind of behavior.
Okay.
Right? What's going to be hard for you? What's natural for you? What are you already doing? What are you not doing? Right? So she kind of enjoyed Twitter, but she was using native Twitter. She didn't have any tools. So when you use the word platform, right? That's when I think about these tools that make life so much easier for you.
And there's a ton. It's the same thing. There's a growing list of tools.
There's way too many, actually. It's overwhelming, and you'll hear about too many. But I think really the two key tools that you would investigate, depending on your needs, are the one you introduced me to recently, which is Buffer.
Yeah.
Right? And Hootsuite. Right? Those are kind of the two. And I actually am now just using both.
Right.
And I'm using both because they have different kind of purposes.
Absolutely.
Right? So Buffer is all about pushing, and Hootsuite helps with interaction and creating the conversation, I think.
Yeah.
Following hashtags, following Twitter chats, following conferences that you want to follow, things like that. Right?
I haven't been the best about using Hootsuite. I have an account. I'm a little bit more of an active Buffer user, but some of the tools that are built into Hootsuite, especially, you're able to kind of keep track of everything a little bit easier.
It's much easier to have that kind of
and the multiple channels. Now I got to use my right words now with the multiple channels.
So So, but Buffer, we can't just leave them hanging with Buffer. The wonderful thing about Buffer is the ability that when you're going through your email, you're going through your RSS feed, you're going through your newsletters that come in your email, etc., or you're just browsing the internet anyway, and you're coming across articles that you're bothering to read, which are usually of interest to most of the people that you would want to interact with.
Right.
You have that opportunity with Buffer, with its little plugin, to just tweet it right away, or put it on LinkedIn, right? Or do whichever channel is appropriate, right?
Yep.
And I think that's probably the last thing I want to say about the channels is that because once you figure out what your goals are and which channel you're going to use, right? And this is just really high level. It's not a lot of deep thinking, right? But then when you run across an article that's about, in her case, an article about caregiving with a video about falling or something, that really is just a Facebook post.
Sure. Right?
So choose Facebook as the place to put it. Don't also put it on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, though, is the research article that you found about, fall prevention or fall protection or something like that, right? So.
And I mean, that's a good lesson for me even, because usually when I go to Buffer, I'll be the first to admit, I just put it on all of them.
Right.
I mean, but.
And see, then I'm going to turn you off on some.
Well, and I've gotten that. Some of my friends are like, man, you post all the time on here. And I stopped posting a lot of my stuff to Facebook because Facebook is just my friends' network. And I'm posting stuff about startups and healthcare, and people are like, "Shut up, dude! Like I don't care."
Right.
But I get real good responses from LinkedIn and Twitter because a lot of people that are following me actually have an interest in that. So I've had to learn that similar lesson as well. Choose your channel wisely.
And you can put. I actually would rarely caution anybody about Twitter. You can put almost anything on Twitter. And because it's such a selective listening place, right?
Yep.
I'm going to go listen to you when I feel like going to listen to you. So if I want to go see what you've been up to, I'm going to go do that, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm
learning about Twitter as well. Sometimes you have to post things multiple times and at the right time of the day, because a lot of times what happens is you post things and people aren't listening at that point, right. And they might not be listening until hours later, and so they might not ever actually catch it. So
yes,
that's also sometimes.
You do have the right to, repeat yourself on Twitter. Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot of noise.
You need to repeat yourself on Twitter in order for people. So that's really interesting, and it's really hard to figure that out when you're new to some of these channels, right?
Right.
So, but it's with the right tools, with the right stuff, it can be incorporated into your day.
So I'm curious, what are some lessons that maybe some of your clients have really learned as they've gone through some of these processes? Like, you just mentioned with this situation and figuring out which channel to use and making sure you maximize that. But what are some other lessons maybe you guys have learned with clients across several industries or verticals that we might be able to share with people to maybe keep them from falling into that pit and wasting a bunch of money or wasting a bunch of time?
So One is the conversation's going on out there, whether you're there or not. Okay.
Always good advice.
Right? So if you, no matter what you're in, right? So this client who's in fall prevention, it's so funny because as I take on a client, I also start noticing, okay, the commenting piece, right? Here's a blog. This blog is about what you're doing. You need to go comment.
Yeah, be involved.
There's a conversation. You need to engage. It's kind of like a cocktail party in the sense that here's all these people that you want to talk to. They're all talking to each other. Just go join that circle. Do it, right? And they want to know you exist.
Sure.
They do, right? But it can feel kind of scary to be touting yourself or kind of marketing yourself in that way. And which actually takes me to a caveat, which is do talk to people, right? So when you do comment or post something, it cannot always be your sales pitch.
Yeah.
Right? Then everybody's going to ignore you.
It's no different than a cocktail party.
Right. It's no different than a cocktail party. So when you walk up to the cocktail party and you say, I sell insurance, do you want a new roof or whatever? They're all going to turn away from you. I sell Amway. Do you want to come to it? Right?
See ya.
Don't. But if you walk up and you hear what everybody's talking about and you go, oh, yes, isn't some of the new nutritional supplements are really interesting. I've just learned about this one. Which ones do you like? Right? That's a whole different conversation.
True.
And they're willing to actually talk to you about that.
Yeah.
So everything can't be a sales pitch. You actually have to engage and be real. And I think that's actually the other thing that's very hard, especially for boomers. I don't think it's hard for a younger entrepreneur, but we really were taught to have a brand voice, not a personal voice.
Yeah, and through the miracle of all this, you can kind of do one and the same now. It's almost like people can be brands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. So when people are afraid, there's a lot of fear of people who don't want to become the spokesperson for their brand, or they don't want to become, you almost can't avoid it anymore. True. Right? And then the other thing is that, yes, it feels like a lot of time. And, I'm going to back up. The next thing is to make sure that all of your profiles are fully complete. Yeah, right? Your bio on Twitter.
Seems simple.
Your profile on LinkedIn. Because what's happening is that all of us have a 24-hour storefront.
Right.
Okay?
And they need to be telling the same story, too.
Exactly. Right? And so that's, oh my gosh.
Stories. We could spend a whole hour talking about
branding,
that.
Yeah, about somebody whose Twitter handle is different than their website, is different from their Facebook page, is different from their product name, is different. That's, oh my gosh. That's challenging when you come across that. And it happens because you're trying to move forward so fast. And just like anything, you've got to stop sometimes, take a deep breath, and do a little bit of planning.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, we could talk, that's a whole other episode. Maybe we will make it another episode, just kind of like digging into more about the how to make this happen. But I think all of this stuff has been great thoughts for entrepreneurs out there to be thinking about, because you're right. Let's just take the average entrepreneur. They're thinking, okay, I want to build an app, I want to build a product, and that's all they're thinking about. And when you don't have time to manage 6 different social media accounts and blogging and podcasting and all this other stuff, it can really be overwhelming, especially if you're not comfortable or you have absolutely no freaking idea what you're doing. So I really love the work you guys are doing in this space. I think that you guys can provide a lot of value to any entrepreneur or any startup, or even any big company for that matter, trying to kind of get back to their startup roots and think small and throw the playbook out the window and try something new. So love what you guys are doing. Really excited about all the work you've got coming up post 1 year anniversary. And I definitely think we need to get you back on the show to talk about some more stuff about how to make some of this stuff happen. So thank you, so much for being here, and looking forward to seeing all Boombox Network success.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, and that about does it for HealthSparx today. Chris was a great guest, and I feel a little bit bad. We were kind of running short on time there. I feel like I sort of cut her off. We could have talked for another hour about all the great stuff that you guys can be doing out there to grow a brand. I mean, Chris is an expert. So I told her once we signed off, we actually even talked for another half hour just about this stuff. I was asking her some questions about things that I could be doing with Caraloop. She's got great advice. So look these guys up. Boombox Network, Chris Bradshaw here in Dallas. They could really help you guys out with lots of fun stuff, tools to be using, tips, guidelines. They're experts. So anyway, I'm probably going to have Chris back on the show maybe in a couple months to talk some more about how to do some of what we just talked about. We got a lot into the what to do, but maybe we go through a little bit how to do it so that you entrepreneurs and startups out there can get your hands dirty with some of this stuff. So looking forward to that. Great show. Lots of good content. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Before we sign off, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher as well. Of course, all episodes are posted here on the website, but check us out there as well. I'd love to collect any reviews or any feedback through iTunes or Stitcher, so would much appreciate. I think that's actually about it for the day. So until then, I'm your host, Michael Walsh. Talk to you soon.